So what's the weirdest question you've been asked about being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
Someone once messaged me on social media and asked if we were allowed to leave the church building.
Oh, the building.
Like the building itself, or like go outside.
How does it feel being in a cult? Is what I've gotten.
How many wives do you have? I love that one because I respond, I have at least 7, and then laugh it off.
Have you ever seen a cell phone before? Well, I had a cell phone in my pocket at the time.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Take a Leap podcast. I'm Leah, and co-hosting with me is James.
Hey, everybody.
We have Wilson from Saints Unscripted. Hey, Wilson.
What's up?
Do you want to give a little bio about yourself?
Sure, yeah, I'd love to.
Okay.
I'm Wilson. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I'm studying at BYU right now. I'm part of a podcast, well, a couple. One of them is called Saints Unscripted, and it's been around for a while, and also part of a new podcast called Latter-day Believers. Both of them are centered around the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and sharing our faith and interviewing and talking with people who have had their own journeys with Christ, and it's been really cool.
That is so cool. You teased this a little bit before we started talking, but who's been one of your favorite guests or one of your most interesting guests that you've had on?
I mean, there's been a ton. On Saints Unscripted, we focus a little bit more on scholars and like talking with our fellow hosts and those sorts of interviews. I talked with a really cool psychologist. It was all about positivity, and then he connected positivity and the gospel and talked about how promoting faith is like really good for your mental health, and also just talks about like the spiritual benefits of it. That was really cool. On the Latter-day Believers side, probably the most impactful interview that I've had was a guy named Ali. He converted from Islam, and his parents were fully in the Nation of Islam. He was Muslim all growing up, and then just had this spiritual experience where he connected with Christ and was like, I have to accept him as my savior. And it just like catapulted him through this whole journey. And now he's serving a mission. We interviewed him right before he left on this mission. Wow. And he was like ostracized from his family, literally moved away from them and moved in with his other family so that he could be a part of the gospel. And it was like super inspiring, super cool.
Taking a step back, I love the stories of the guests, but you mentioned that you are from Dallas, Texas, and that you are a Latter-day Saint or a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. What is it like growing up in Dallas, Texas as a member of the church?
I'm pretty sure that anyone in the Bible Belt can relate to this, but it is, you got to be on your toes. And that's definitely how it felt for me growing up. It's a good environment to grow up in because Christ is everywhere. Like, people love Jesus in Texas. They love him. He's on bumper stickers, he's on cars, he's on mugs, he's on everything, right? But no one can quite come to agreement on who he actually is. And all that anyone can agree on is that apparently we have the wrong Jesus. Pretty much anytime I was telling someone that I was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, I got a lot of hate. I got a lot of backlash because people were telling me, hey, I hate to say this, but you're going to hell. I had one of my best friends introduce me to this kid, like first day middle school, sits down at my lunch table, sees my BYU sticker, my water bottle, and he's like, dude, I'm so sorry. You're going to hell. Like, we got to fix this. Like,
it's a problem. At least they want to fix it, you know? It's good for them.
And that's the thing. Like, it's always coming out of a place of good intention. It's like coming out of a place of love. But at the same time, they're like, that's just the reality of it, man. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, if that's what you think. I grew up in Wisconsin. Actually, you're not from Utah either. James, I guess you can answer this too. Did you ever have people ask you like super weird questions about the gospel? Like one time in high school, I think, somebody asked me if Mormons were allowed to eat popcorn. And to this day, I don't know where that came from. There's nothing in the word of wisdom that I could trace to not eating popcorn. I've also been asked if I could eat chocolate, which caffeine, that makes more sense. But popcorn? No idea.
Popcorn, that I have gotten popcorn. That's a wild one.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I'm going to be honest. I don't think people at my high school or my middle school or any school that I went to really understood enough about the church to ask questions or like just did not care at all. I guess I had some polygamy questions like once or twice maybe. But I guess when I was in high school, my dad was an English teacher there and he hated punishing kids. So he was like super chill, super funny, super relaxed. He was just a beloved teacher at the school. And so I think I benefited from my dad's cool factor maybe a little bit, and that people just thought we were a chill family.
Nice.
There you go.
So being in the Bible Belt, like you said, you're on your toes. There might be opportunities to share your testimony to kind of help grow your faith, but also, right, to have to defend your faith a little bit. Did that kind of contribute to your being a part of Saints Unscripted and what you do now?
Oh, for sure. I know because I received so many questions about my faith, and my fellow peers, my friends were devout Catholics and Baptists. They were constantly asking me questions about my faith because it was so different from what they're used to. So from an early age, I had to come to grips with, is this something I'm going to take seriously? Is this faith that so many people ask me about, is this legit? Because if it's not, I'm just wasting my time. And I'm sacrificing social opportunities and friendships for doing this, right? From like 6th grade, 7th grade, I just remember seriously studying the gospel and every aspect of it, right? Delving into church history, delving into trickier topics like polygamy and race in the priesthood and these things early on, just because I had to go all in because I wasn't going to mess around. It absolutely did affect that, right? And I feel like overall I'm grateful for that because it allowed me to expose myself to things just on my own, just out of the sake of seeking after knowledge. And because of that, it strengthened my testimony because I took a faithful approach to it.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I'm wondering, too, how have these podcasts influenced your faith over the years or however long you've been working on them? And then also, how has your faith influenced your desire to work on these podcasts?
It's a great question. For me, so I started with Saints Unscripted right whenever I got back from my mission. And I feel like every returned missionary kind of reaches this point whenever they come home and they're just kind of like, now what? Like you just have this blank canvas of a life in front of you.
Is that true? Can you confirm?
Yes, when you come home from your mission, you want to be on podcasts. It's just a natural thing. And so I think that's an experience we both can share at the table. Here. Yeah, no, so I'm here, Wilson's here. It's just, that's how it works.
Okay, good to know.
So I had this opportunity with Saints Unscripted, and I was like, this is perfect. Like it was, personally, like I need something to keep me involved in the gospel, or else I get complacent. So it worked out great for me that things were kind of set up like that. Personally, I never really got this until after I was on the podcast, but a lot of the people that would come in, especially whenever they would come and share their conversion stories, a lot of them talked about how finding faith-promoting content on the internet helped them so much in their conversion. And so I feel like what I do now on the podcast is an extension of missionary work because we're able to put out faith-promoting content, help people come closer to Christ through the internet. And so many of these people coming and sharing their conversion stories were like, I had questions and I turned to the internet and I found gospel sources, right? I found scholarly sources, but I also found Saints Unscripted. I found others' conversion stories, and that really helped me in my journey. So as I've come to witness that, it's really helped me to kind of rekindle my missionary fire as well, even though I'm still home.
I love that because I think a challenge that you faced a lot as a missionary that I experienced, I'm sure you had it as well. Actually, where did you serve, by the way?
I served in Sweden.
In Sweden, okay. I served in Tacoma, Washington, as a stateside. And so I think a lot of people, you'll give them a Book of Mormon. They'll seem like they're just absolutely like feeling the spirit and vibing. And then you like meet them and then they just have all these random questions out of nowhere. Sometimes it's from a friend or like a family member. But a lot of times it is just they Googled stuff. And I love that you're trying to fill that space so that when they look up these things or if they have these questions and look for answers, there's positive answers. And even as a missionary, we encountered Saints Unscripted. So I think that's fantastic. Moving on then from Saints Unscripted, you're also a part of the Latter-day Believers podcast. How did you segue into that or start doing that?
So the channel Saints Unscripted was in a really interesting spot because we kind of had like a few different directions we wanted to go with the channel. Because obviously we had David Snell, who's doing his faith and beliefs work, which is the breaking down the gospel topics and the tough questions. Right. And that's like the most popular part of the show, right? And then we had these like discussion topic host episodes. And then we also had the conversion stories, and we hired some social media experts to talk about, okay, like where can we take the channel? How can we grow? And they're like, listen, you guys have 3 channels in one. And so you have to split them or else you guys, like the algorithm for YouTube doesn't know where to put your videos. So if you guys are going to grow, you have to split. So we did. So David Snell, he started his own thing under this umbrella, but it's called Keystone now. And he interviews scholars. He does his faith and beliefs work. He does all of that. And it's really good content.
Cool.
And then Saints Unscripted is kind of staying as young adults in the church, promoting faith, fun topics, that sort of thing. And then we created Latter-day Believers as this is solely conversion stories and sharing those.
Nice.
With your work then on Latter-day Believers, what advice would you give young adults who feel criticized for being faithful in their religion?
That's an incredible question because it's something that we all experience as young adults in this world.
Yeah.
Personally, that's why I struggled so much. Well, not struggled, but it's something that confuses me about being in the Bible Belt in our relationships with other Christian faiths because I feel like we need to band together. This world is already so anti-faith that we can't just bicker about the details. We need to band together, right?
Right.
But to your question, some really good advice actually that I got on my mission from Hank Smith that has always stuck with me.
It's a good guy to get advice from on your mission.
Oh my gosh, I know.
That's crazy.
No, fantastic. Yeah. He talked about Joseph Smith and everything that he went through because he experienced so much, right? Like Carthage jail, Liberty jail, the saints were being cast out, and like he went through trial after trial after trial. And he just asked us this question of, how do you guys think he went through that? He got out of Liberty jail and then just went right back to the saints and just kept doing exactly what caused him all the suffering in the first place, right? It's like, where did he find the strength to keep going, to keep following his faith? And he turned us back to the very beginning, right, to the first vision. And he said, guys, look at this. Joseph Smith had an experience with God. And the way that he described it was, I knew it, and God knew it, and I could not deny it. Whenever he had this experience with God that he could not deny, he was able to go through all this suffering and all these horrible experiences with a smile and with his faith because he knew that. And the advice he gave to us was, you guys have to have your own experiences with God. Because whenever you've had those experiences, a person with an experience is never going to be at the mercy of someone with an opinion. And so for me personally, like growing up in the Bible Belt, I had those experiences with God. Whenever I'd ponder and I'd ask those questions and I've come to him in prayer, I had experiences with him and I couldn't deny it. So no matter what questions people had for me or however they tried to attack me, I had my experience and I stuck with it. And I always felt confident in that.
Wow, that's a great answer. Thank you.
Absolutely. I love that too, because I feel like it's just something people can't argue with. And I know a lot of times as members of the church, and especially when you're a missionary, people do come out of nowhere. They'll say the most outlandish things and they'll just try and throw all these facts and historical arguments or whatever controversial issues they have up their sleeve. And at the time, you might not always be super well educated on those topics, but the only thing that you're an expert in that nobody else can touch is your own personal experience, right? And that's why they always tell us, like, share your testimony. And I think that's such a powerful thing to be able to leave somebody with, and kind of a lot of what you get to do with your podcast. And so I guess we touched on some stories at the beginning from your podcast experience. Is there anybody who you've had on your podcast that has left you with something that you were then able to build your faith on even more? Did somebody share an experience where you're kind of able to latch on to it? Because I feel like that's a lot of the value of hearing these stories.
Yeah, for sure. So specifically there are two that kind of come to mind. One of them, his name is Dusty. And he has this really cool story where he was a convert to the church as a young adult, served a mission. He's also from Texas, actually. He's also from Dallas, like me.
Oh, cool,
so
yeah.
we could kind of connect with that, right? Really cool guy. Lawyer, very to the point, a little gruff, a little old-fashioned.
I love this description. Great.
Sounds like a Western movie or something.
Yeah.
No, like straight up. He like came in with like boots and jeans, and I'm like, all right, we got a Texan, let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah, so convert to the church, went on a mission, came home, and then all of a sudden just had these questions, right? And then just went down this rabbit hole of anti. And he said that he woke up one morning and he's like, I lost my testimony. Like it was just gone.
Oh, wow.
I didn't believe anymore. And so he wanted to take a step back from the church, had a misunderstanding with his stake president, and he got excommunicated, which made him really angry when this happened, right? And so after this excommunication, he was incredibly anti and spent years of his life in online chat rooms and Reddit and just tearing people down and doing everything he could to tear the church down.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, I can't remember how many years it was down the line, right? But a long time later, he got into this chat thread with a member of the church, and they were just going back and forth about faith, and slowly but surely he just broke him down and said, hey, like maybe just try praying, right? Or maybe just try this or try that. And so as Dusty took these like tiny steps of showing faith again, all these incredible miracles started happening in his life. Now, to be honest, I can't tell like he does. He's a great storyteller. So I'd say like we have a video with him on Saints Unscripted and Latter-day Believers. So that one's worth checking out.
Okay.
But he has these undeniable miracles and this incredible story in his life that led to him getting rebaptized and joining the church again. It's a fantastic story. And as he rejoined the church, he regrets the years that he spent trying to tear down this faith. And so he declares himself as a modern day Alma the Younger. And now he's doing everything he can to try and build it back up and to try and reverse the damage that he did. Just one thing that always stuck out to me whenever Dusty came on the show, one thing that he shared was he talked about how like the greatest evidence that God loves you is the fact that he gave you a living prophet. He had this great analogy. So think about it like this. Imagine your dad said, whenever you turned 18, he's like, okay, take your journal, take your family memories, take your pictures, take everything I've ever taught you, anything we've ever done together, gather all of that up and leave the house. And I'm never going to talk to you again. And just go figure out life on your own. Good luck. Imagine if your mom or dad said that to you.
That would be
18.
tragic. Oh my gosh.
It'd be horrible, right? That would
Yeah.
suck. A good father, a loving father, I personally believe he wouldn't do that. And that's what Dusty shared too. She's like, so the greatest evidence of his love is living prophets. So listen to them. Listen to what they have to say, because that is God speaking through them to you. He's an incredible role model to me, and just his story of repentance and coming back and finding his faith is really inspiring.
Yeah, a true redemption story. Was there another one you wanted to share?
There was another one. Okay, so Austin. So pretty similar story, right? But he grew up in the church. He claims he did everything a Mormon boy should do. Baptized when he was 8, Aaronic priest when he was 12, served a mission, came home, graduated from BYU, checked all the boxes of being a member of the church. And then I don't quite remember how, but he said for a long time he was just kind of on the fence about the gospel. And same thing where one day he just went the other way. And he's just like, I don't believe in God anymore. I'm an atheist. And he brought this up with his wife. And his wife, instead of having a reaction and like kind of giving him a lot of backlash and starting this whole thing, she's just like, listen, if you can find something else outside of the church that has more light and is going to be better for our family, I'll join you. I'll live with you. And he was like, okay, fair enough. So he went on this search through pretty much everything, right? Through anti-Mormonism, through other denominations, through other religions and other spiritual movements. He explored everything that he could. And after like years of searching, this is going to shock you, but he realized that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints had all the light that he was searching for. It was there the whole time. And so he came back. And whenever he did, he wrote something called the Light and Truth Letter. And
I love it.
as a part of this letter, he points out a lot of like fallacies and common anti-Mormon arguments. And he was just like very knowledgeable. And you could tell that he had been on this journey and that he had learned a lot and he had experienced a lot, but that he was very grateful to be where he was. And he just had this spirit about him that was really, I don't know, just really mature.
That is fascinating. Shout out to his wife for saying that, because she could have been so angry and pushed him even further away from the church. And instead, I feel like she's a large part of the reason that he came back.
I'm going to say that's like the most faithful response possible. Like in the moment, like it's obviously like very understanding, very compassionate, also like very accepting, but also in the back of her head, she's like, he's going to come back. You know, maybe. I'm not going to say that's what she was thinking. Maybe she was completely open to it.
That's just, it's a lot of faith that she had, right? She had like a ton of faith in Christ and in God that things were going to work out. And he's like, sure, go ahead and try and find something. And then he came back. Pretty cool.
That is super cool.
I mean, all these stories have reminded me of a similar story, but...
Do you want to share?
I mean, I could.
Open up, James. Go for
Sure.
it.
This isn't my personal story.
Don't be shy.
It just reminds me one time, because my mission president told the story a couple times, because he was the bishop of a mid-single adults ward. So lots of people who are older and single, members of the church, and it was here in Utah, I think maybe even in Provo. And one day he's on the stand at church, and he sees this lady in the back of the church who he's never seen before. And he sees her, and right before they sing the closing hymn, she leaves. And she does that for like months. And he keeps being like, I want to get off the stand and go talk to her, but I can't. And so he keeps waiting. And then one day after sacrament meeting, he's walking to his office, and she's just sitting in his office. And he's like, oh my gosh, I've been waiting to meet with you. And she tells him her whole life story pretty much. But the point she gets to is, I'm like a super prominent anti-Mormon like blogger. And he's like, oh. And she's like, but there's one problem. And he's like, oh, what's your problem? Tell me. And she's like, the problem is that it's all true. And then she has this reconciliation story as well that she gets into. But it's just a profound thing with all of those stories, right? Mm-hmm. But I think it shows a lot about God's character and about God's love, that even when his children go astray and maybe are like attacking other people who are just faithful people, or just attacking their previous faith system, he's still completely open and accepting and is waiting for them to come back. And that's, I think, the point I wanted to get at.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Wilson, as a fellow podcaster, how would you rate your experience on the Take a Leap podcast?
Oh my gosh. I would say...
You can be honest. It's okay.
I would say 9 out of 10. We need to talk about Texas more.
All right, let's talk about Texas.
That 10 out of 10.
Let's talk about Texas.
Oh, okay. Fine. 10 out of 10.
Give me some
There it is. You got me. You got me.
What's the best thing about Texas? Pitch me some Texas.
Oh my gosh, the food. I mean, like
okay.
food and football and faith, right? Like that's
Food,
the three
football,
F's of
faith.
Texas,
Amazing.
right?
Yeah.
So we talked about the faith, food and football. We still got a long ways to go, guys.
Okay.
How much time do you have?
You can have 30 seconds for each.
Deal. All right. You ever in Texas, you got to get the barbecue, right? But we got barbecue and we got Tex-Mex. So, like, no matter what you like, we got it for you.
So true.
Those are the only
Amazing.
two options.
And
that are
best
worth
barbecue
eating.
in Dallas is right in my hometown.
Really?
Oh,
Wow.
yeah. Hutchins Barbecue. Oh, my
All right.
gosh. Delicious.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
Okay, food. Do you have anything else to say about
was-
food? Was that
I,
it?
I feel like Hutchins has got to be out there. And then, of
Okay.
course, do you guys know Whataburger?
Oh, of course.
I've heard of what
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. So good.
So good.
Patty melt. Oh, honey barbecue chicken strip sandwich. Oh, holy cow.
Okay,
right.
amazing.
30 seconds of football.
I will say, okay, I don't come from the biggest town, right? We have, from tiny town of Melissa, Texas, we have 16,000 people. We just built a brand new multi-million-dollar football stadium
Makes
for
sense.
the high school
Wow.
that seats 10,000 people. And we fill it up every week.
Oh
Every
my
Friday night,
gosh.
we fill it up all 10,000 seats. Well over half the town is in this one football stadium.
Mm-hmm.
All I'm saying is just football in Texas just means more. It just does. I see the football stadiums here in Utah, and I'm like, wow, it's
Tiny.
so
It's not even
so
a stadium.
sad.
It's some bleachers.
Literally, it's like our middle school.
Yeah. It's elementary school football field.
I'm so glad that now, at least, your experience on the Take a Leap podcast was a 10 out of 10. Thanks, Wilson. Thank you for coming to talk to us today.
Of course.
Huge thank you to Wilson Gustaveson for speaking with us on this episode of Take a Leap. Wilson was actually in my creative writing workshop last semester, and I chased him after class one day and begged him to be on my podcast. And here we are, so thank you, Wilson. Be sure to subscribe to the Take a Leap podcast and leave a comment on Spotify. We actually can't hear you if you're just yelling at a podcast, so commenting is the best way to reach us. Take a Leap is a product of BYU Radio. See you next week. Bye-bye.